Don't even start me on pushing film.
And it's like, oh, I pushed this film to 1600, and okay, did you just shoot it at 1600, at exposure index 1600, and then just develop it as normal, or did you shoot it at exposure index 1600
and then develop it for that
push it
rating?
To stops,
yeah,
which is pushing that. The development bit is the push process part.
Yeah.
Of the process. The actual shooting of the film is just under or overexposing it.
But I think there's a massive misconception about pushing film anyway, because a lot of the people I see that have pushed film, they're shooting it in bright sun and it's out, and they don't need that.
No.
So I don't think they're aware that they're doing it because they want to compress their contrasts.
That's it.
And the tonal range of the film. They're just doing it because everything they see when they start film is pushing.
Yes.
Shoot Tri-X at 1600, shoot HP5 at 1600,
Yeah,
and then, you know, I get people saying, well, how do you get those really long tones on your work? And it's like, well, because I usually rate my HP5 if I'm shooting that at 200 or 250, and I shoot FP4 at 64, and it opens up the tonal range of what I'm doing. I don't think I could do that. And it's like, well, I'm looking at your photos, and you're living in California, and it's always like sunny 16, so you could probably get away with shooting Pan F at 25 and still have no problem.
Yeah.
I think it's because people are used to coming from digital, where they can just shift the ISO up and down, and it's a bit of a safety blanket for them.
Yeah.
Because they don't think, well, I couldn't go out with 125 rating all day, because how am I, what am I going to do if the light won't fail?
No. Not that much.
Not enough
No.
for you to put your camera away.
No.
And they're all trying to shoot wide open anyway. They're trying to shoot wide open on really fast glass, pushing to 1600 in the Sahara Desert, and wondering, why they're maxing out at their top shutter speed, which is, 1,000 if they're shooting a Leica.
You're very good. That's a spirit level and a half.
That's a proper spirit level. You'll see why soon, I'm sure. And the Beast, which I'm going to take out and wear. A couple of lenses, 135 for the Pentax, hardly use it. 90, 2.8, hardly use that. Old school.
Nice.
But I'd meter the shadows with these.
Is that how you shoot FP4, is it?
That's how I shoot anything if I'm shooting on the Pentax.
Yeah. So what?
But you get a massive misconception. People say meter for the shadows.
But then you dropping the shadow into zone 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people meter the shadows. They see, meter for the shadows, and then they'll just meter the shadows and use that and expose to that, instead of metering the shadows, but then placing that value on the scale of where it is. So I usually go for the darkest part. I just want to retain some detail, and then I'll underexpose what the meter's telling me by about 2 1/3 stops, and that gets me the black with a little bit of detail for how I develop and how I print.
So how do you develop then?
I only really shoot 2 emulsions. I shoot HP5 and I shoot FP4. And this is another little bit of a bugbear. Everybody sticks to the massive dev chart or what's on the box. And they'll stick to that religiously. And you see this thing where you see people saying, I shot this, rated at HP5, rated at 200, developed for 800. It doesn't really make that much sense.
No.
I set up my first darkroom when I was 16 in my parents' loft. And I'm 46 now, and I've always shot film, shoot digital for work, because I have to. But we were taught to test our films to get the rating and the development times that suited how we exposed the film and how we wanted to print. So over the years I've come to know what I develop HP5 at, what I rate at for the conditions I want and the contrast I want. So it's not off a chart or from a book, it's through personal testing. And you only really need to shoot 3 or 4 films and do a couple of different development times to really pin down the look you want and how you want it. And then that's your time then, and your development time is suited to you. It's not off a box. And I'll say these times are a starting point. But people stick to those religiously instead of looking at the next. But the thing is, a lot of people don't print now. So what you can do with a scanner, it doesn't really matter.
Funny enough, this is what I was about to say. This is where your world and my world differ, because I scan, and to a lesser or greater extent, I can be way more lackadaisical and then just chuck it through the scanner and fix it in post.
Do exactly. But I like to get it right on the neg. I scan for Instagram and stuff like that. But if I didn't use Instagram, I wouldn't have a need to scan. So it's what works for me, and I get the negatives, the type of density that I know works well with what I do.
And how you print.
Yeah. But I say to people, you just use a roll and shoot the same thing, and shoot it at a couple of different, ISOs or shutter speeds that relate to ISOs, how many stops you drop in and stuff like that, and just have a look at the negs.
Yeah.
But then that's difficult because people don't know what to look for in a neg.
No.
And you'll soon get a speed, and you go, oh, okay, well, I quite like HP5 at 160, and I'll drop the development time by 20%, and I just end up getting a really nice. The tonality looks good, and I've got a good range I can work from. So yeah, but film is different now in the digital age because people scan and stuff like that, and there are certain things that I do that probably aren't as relevant.
I'm going through this learning curve with Nectachrome at the moment, so loads of it is just blue, and I don't know whether or not that's something to do with slight underexposure, because I had some slight underexposure in the first roll, that loads of it was coming out really blue casted, or whether or not it's a product of the scanner or a combination of the two, and I need to go through that hurdle of the first 3, 4, 5, 6 rolls to get to the stage that I'm exposing it right for how it goes into the scanner, and then how it comes out of the scanner and through Lightroom. Because my workflow involves those 2 steps, if you see what I mean. And one of the problems with scanning, obviously when you're printing, you know the density of the negative, and you're controlling the exposure based on that. But with a scanner, although you can control the density correction, there's no measure of what it's done in the automatic phase when it goes into the scanner to start with. One photo, it's not like you can't fix the density correction for all of the negatives.
No.
And then do everything sort of relative per negative. It does an automatic density correction per negative.
Okay, so you're getting different, sometimes wildly different outcomes.
That's it. So you have to kind of you have to get your exposure right or even going in to be able to then set the scans uniformly, or the correction uniformly across the whole roll. So then when you then go into Lightroom, you've got a uniform set of images, if you see what I mean.
And that's difficult with slide film anyway, because it's the window of opportunity, the latitude with slide film is so small.
Narrow,
but it's metering is so crucial with slide film. It's just the opposite of negative, isn't it? You're keying everything to the highlights.
Well, funny enough, that was the mentality I went into my first roll of Nectachrome. I underexposed a lot of it slightly, and it's all come out murky and shit.
So have you metered it in camera?
I metered it with my Lumo app at 100, exposure index 100. But
is that incident?
Reflected. I was erring towards underexposure.
Right.
So because I was using the Leica and there's only a certain amount of settings, I was erring towards underexposure because that was what I believed to be the right thing to do with slide film, the reversal film. But actually, what happened was the results, they came out all murky. And when I spoke to Duncan at Silverpan Labs, and he said that he's spoken to quite a lot of people, they shoot at either 50 or 80, and that gets better results.
Okay. I haven't shot slide film for years, but what I used to do was, kind of spot meter off the brightest part of a cloud, and do the opposite to what I do with the shadows, and then overexpose that spot reading by 2.5 stops, and then generally the rest of all the shadows kind of fell in line with that. But as long as I'd got that nailed, it seemed to eliminate colour casts.
Yes.
But this was with Fuji Astia, which disappeared some time ago, which was a lovely slide film. It looked a bit like neg, it's like colour neg. Quite neutral. But that was years ago. I thought, as we're 35 mmC, thought I'd bring my little.
Excellent.
I don't normally like bringing 2 cameras out with me. I'm definitely a 1 camera.
I've got a problem now, because in the boot of my car, I've got my Nikon FTN.
Nice. I've got an FT2.
My 35mm shift lens.
Nice. The
Leica M10, and a point and shoot. And I'm determined not to leave the back of the car with anything more than 1 camera.
No, those days of coming out with colour film, black and white film, a 35mm camera. I just can't do it.
No.
I have to.
It ruins it, doesn't it? You're just not thinking.
Because I'm thinking about how this looks with this camera, and then that's how you kind of set out. But to go from one to the other, I just can't do it anymore.
No.
And it's why I sold a load of cameras as well, because I was crippled. It was like, all right, I'm going to go out shooting, and then it's like, well, what am I going to shoot? And then, I haven't shot that for a long time. And then it all becomes about the gear, as opposed to what I'm supposed to be doing, which is going out and making photographs. And it's partly why I don't listen really to a lot of blogs and stuff, because I'm not really interested in cameras.
No.
I'm not interested in the hows about photography and what film. I'm interested in
the pictures,
what the photography says. And I get gear questions, which you're always going to get, and that's fine. But the ones that, the people that I've ended up having ongoing conversations and getting to know are the people that started off right off the bat asking about the work and why and the ideas behind it, because that's what I'm interested in. It's why I do photography. I don't particularly enjoy lugging the Pentax round all day.
No. But your background is
fine art.
Fine art,
I studied painting. So, and this really, what I do with this feels more like just an extension of the creative part of me that kind of started with fine art. It's just that this is a better medium to kind of work out the stuff that I'm interested in. So, I get that people love photography, and it's a hobby, and it's a pastime, and all of that stuff, and it's a job for me. But it's not my kind of go-to enjoyment pastime. There are other things I like to do that I see as enjoyable.
Sorry, hang on. You're telling me there's other things in the world apart from photography?
well, not now. I've got 2 kids. There's not really much left of me.
No.
But
I know that feeling.
I'm interested in photography, but more about what it can do.
Yes.
And why people do it.
Yeah.
And so even though I don't shoot digital outside of work, I can still derive enjoyment from looking at work that's made. I'm not a snob, not a film snob, because a picture is a picture, isn't it? I'm just interested in the intent, and what people are trying to say, not what camera they've used to do it with. And the few blogs that I do follow aren't. They're about photographs, but they're not really about gear. They're about something about the theory of it and why and what photography is and the conceptual aspects of it. But it's about what people are doing with it as opposed to what they're doing it with.
Yes.
If you see what I mean? Which is completely opposite to 35 mmc. I get that people are interested in cameras, and there's so many old great cameras to try if you're into that type of thing. And it's nice to see that allied with people going out and using them and making work, and it's obvious from some of the articles you read that people are really passionate about the pictures they're making. It's not just about the cameras they're using. It's about what they're using them for, and that's what I find interesting. I bought an M2, a Leica M2, and I've still got that, and it's battered anyway. You've seen it. It's got writing scratched onto it, flash settings. It's obviously earned somebody a living over the years. It hasn't been babied. But I had that. That was my first Leica, and I'd probably had it 3 weeks and slipped off my shoulder and dropped down 2 flights of tiled stairs. A couple of dents, vulcanite exploding everywhere. I spent a day in my studio recalibrating it myself, figuring if I botch this up, it's going to have to go off anyway. And that was 3 years ago, and I think it's better since I recalibrated it than it was before. It took me a day, and a pair of my wife's favourite tweezers, which I had to fashion into a tool.
It's amazing how you can make a pair of tweezers not function by poking them inside a camera.
It's just amazing how wives can be so useful at times. Well, there we go. Oh, my back done. I just whack that about it, and then there we go. Bag of goodies. Got everything in there, haven't you? Have you still got your MA?
No, I sold it.
Oh, sold it and you got that instead. That's criminal, that. And I think the M2. I've used a few, and I think the M2 is just the best of the bunch, really. Because I only use 35, 50 and 90 with it.
Yeah.
So I've got the perfect frame lines. And I use that same focal length through everything. So this is a 75, which is about a 38.
Yeah.
I've got the 90, which is about a 45, and the 135, which is about a 70. So that's close to that 35, 50, 90. And then if I use the F2 or the F3, and I want something a bit more precise for 35mm, I've got 35 shift, 35 normal, 50, 55, and a 105. And I don't ever really seem to move from those ranges. And what's nice about that is I just don't have to look at gear anymore, because I've got everything how I want it.
Yeah, that's it.
So I don't get gas anymore.
No, mine is just to feed the website.
Oh yeah, well it would. Yeah, you'd have to. You couldn't just say, "Well, that's it. I've found exactly what I need." Because
that would be the end of it.
the end of it.
Website that's primarily about gear. I'm going to take this with me, not because I necessarily want to use it, but because it's in my pocket, because it's worth significantly
worth more than your car.
I like that tripod head. That's cool.
Yeah, it helps with the geared
Yeah,
with this
yeah.
to doing fine adjustments. As you know, with the shift lens, if you're shifting and you're just a little bit up or down, which is fine, you know, it's going back to scanning. You can do all of that in Lightroom. You can bring the vertical do. But you so need to get it right on the neg if you want to print from it.
Yeah.
There are things you can do with an enlarger.
Well, I was going to say, if you've got
you
one
can
of those
tilt
enlargers with it.
And mine, you know, you can tilt the head a bit and you can, you know, correct converging, but it's a
pain.
It's just a pain for how long it takes to stick a level up against it and tweak it and get it right now.
So how did you meter then?
I haven't yet. The only thing I don't like about the Pentax is the magnification in the viewfinder. There's so much more you get on the neg than that you don't see in the viewfinder.
Oh really?
Yeah, you have to. It's a real adjustment. But with this, you get so much more that you don't see.
Okay.
F8.
F8, which is where we'd both come to.
Yeah. So, but if somebody's got a meter in their camera and they're pointing it there, then they point it there, then they point it there, they're going to get 3 different meter readings. Yeah. It's going to be really confusing. Whereas if the light stays like this, we could walk around all day and that's your baseline.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't change.
No.
So it's actually really simple.
Yeah. But even these things people get confused because people think, well, they've seen in the films where people are going like this.
Yeah.
It's like, well, actually, the light there is the same as the light here.
Yeah.
So I know what the light hitting that wall is over there by doing that. I'm not pointing that at the wall, I'm pointing
because the light that's hitting that from here is the same light that's hitting that over there. It's not like we're in the shade and that's in the sun.
No.
People just can make things more complicated than they are.
Yeah. I think as film photographers, we tread a sort of a fine line between a sort of doing something that's probably slightly more pleasurable and doing something that is slightly more difficult. For what reason do we make our lives that slight bit more difficult?
I don't think it's as it shouldn't be as difficult as a lot of people make it. You know, and if I go out, like if I go on holiday and I take just the Leica, or I'll take the F2, and there's no meters in those.
No.
And I won't take a meter with me, but the beauty of just, you know, unless the light's rapidly changing, the beauty of just having a camera where there's no distractions and you just lift it to your eye and you take a picture and then you move on, you're not having to check the back and you're not looking at it, you're not checking the histogram and you know, shooting it again, looking at it, checking it, tweaking it, shooting it again, looking at it, tweaking it. All that does is take you out of the moment.
Yes, yeah.
And it makes wherever you are about the camera.
Yeah.
Whereas the more you strip away, I find it's just enjoyable because the camera's just there, click, and then it's down, and then you're back in the moment, and it's not difficult at all.
No.
You know, and when it's a sunny day, the readings don't change.
No.
It's so nice to have to not think.
Yeah.
All you have to think about is, okay, what do I want the depth of field to do here?
Yes.
And just adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Think about nice things like composition.
Think about nice things like ice creams.
Yeah.
And time spent at the beach and not worrying about getting sand on my sensor.